Now let's focus on the sixth model development principle. We call it the auditing spreadsheet model. Once you develop a model, you need to ensure, as the developer of this model, the model is accurate and it meets the needs of the user of this model. So you need to make sure that it meets the expectation of the user. In order to ensure the model meet the expectations of the user, the model must be error-free. So once you develop this model, by using these spreadsheet auditing tools, you can check this model for its accuracy. So that is what the spreadsheet auditing tools help you with. What is auditing spreadsheet models? It focuses on finding information on not being logical, inconsistency, mistakes of a spreadsheet model. Simply speaking, this auditing spreadsheet model will help you to identify the problems with the logical relationship. So it helps to make sure that the logical relationships is there. If there is a problem with this logical relationship, it will help you to figure that out by using the available auditing spreadsheet tools. And also, if there is a kind of inconsistency in the application of a particular formula, that can also be figured out. So if you use the spreadsheet auditing tools, it will help you to identify and solve if there is an inconsistency in the formula application. So that is another thing. And also, sometimes there can be some errors in the model what you had developed. By use of this auditing spreadsheet model tools, it will help to overcome these mistakes. It will help to identify the mistake and thereby correct the mistake then and there. So that is what the auditing spreadsheet will help you with. So these are some of the most common types of errors when you go on developing the models. So you would likely to encounter these particular kinds of mistakes. So you may not encounter all the mistakes in a given scenario, but you may encounter few. The first type of error where it can go wrong, it is about the mistakes in the logics. So when you are going to develop these models, sometimes you fail to establish the logical relationships. So therefore, there can be mistakes in the logic. So it's a kind of common mistake. So you need to make sure that the logical flow is there. So it is the logical relationships is there in the model that you had developed. And also sometimes you might hard code the figures. You may hard code the numbers in the formula. So if that is the case, it will compromise the flexibility. In order to ensure the flexibility, you need to make sure that you make use of the reference to the maximum possible. So you may make use of the relative cell references, absolute cell references, even if needed, the mixed cell references. You are not going to hard code the things. So to the maximum possible. So otherwise, it would ended up compromising the model flexibility. And also, sometimes mistakenly, there can be some incorrect cell references. So sometimes you would have referred to a cell that should not be the case. In most of the time, how the things can go wrong, you may you may mistakenly use this relative and absolute cell reference. You may ended up using the relative cell reference for a situation where you are supposed to use the absolute cell reference. So therefore, it's a fundamental mistake. So you need to be conscious when you are developing the model, you are using the accurate cell references. So then how do you ensure? Once you develop the model, you need to check it for the accuracy. Then only you can confirm that model is error-free. So that is also a particularly important thing. So even in case of your examination, you may feel confident that you have developed the model to its fullest. But sometimes there can be some unintended problems. So that is because of you haven't checked it for the accuracy. You may develop the model, but you are not going to manipulate things and check. But once the examiner going to manipulate the things, so these errors would evident. So therefore, it is recommended once you develop a model, you may manipulate that and see whether it produces the expected results. Then only you can ensure you have applied the things correctly. And sometimes, accidentally, you may overwrite the formulas. So it is even possible when you are going to drag the things, sometimes mistakenly you would overwrite the formulas. So when you are going to copy paste the things, so this can happen. And also, sometimes you are going to use the built-in functions, the inbuilt function in a incorrect way. So we call it the misuse of built-in function. You may use it in a manner that is not intended. So therefore, it will lead to some errors in the model what you develop. Then again, when it comes to the development of model, these models is most of the time developed for the different users. So this model may be used by the people who is not from a financial background. So is not from a finance background, accounting and finance background. If that is the case, if you do not adequately document how this model must be operated, the operational instructions were not being provided adequately, so it may lead to some errors when you are going to use that model by that particular user. So that is also a kind of error that you can expect in the application of this model. And also, sometimes you may find that the inconsistent or poor model layout. So we used to discuss about 3 types of model layout. So like the rectangular form, different worksheets and different workbooks. So sometimes you would have used or you would have developed the model using the rectangular format. That is in the sense you have taken all the blocks of the model to a particular sheet. But in that particular scenario, in that particular given circumstance, the most suitable layout would have been the different sheet layout. So when you are going to expand the model in the future, so it may come up with lot of unintended problems. So that is simply because you haven't done the planning properly. If you had planned that properly, you would have ended up choosing a suitable layout. But simply because you haven't planned properly, you have ended up choosing a model layout which is not suitable for the given circumstance or the given business scenario. So that is also something that would lead to the problems or errors in a model that you would develop. The other thing is we call it the incorrect use of cell attributes. So you are going to incorrectly use the attributes of the cells. So that is another common mistake what you would likely to encounter. When it comes to these errors that you would witness in a spreadsheet model can broadly be classified into two. We call it existing errors and potential errors. As the term suggests, the existing errors are the errors that it is there in the developed model, while the potential errors is referred to the error that it can be encountered in the future. The existing errors relate to various mistakes and inaccuracies that currently exist in the model. So these existing errors are evident in the existing model. So the existing errors are evident in the model that you had developed. Like logic errors, you may have incorrectly used the logics. So you may have used some invalid assumptions. So according to the given scenario, you may be developing the model for a given scenario. But when you are modeling that particular real world situation, you would have used some invalid assumption. So therefore, the model may be something far away from the reality. So you need to bring the reality into the model, but because of the use of the invalid assumption, so you have developed a model which is far away from the reality. So therefore, it does not meet the expectations of the user. So that is a risk of the model development. And also you have invalid entered data. So you have entered some data which is not valid. In fact, you would have used some incorrect cell references, like you would have made use of relative cell references in an instance where you should have used the absolute cell reference. And also you would have hard-coded some of the numbers into the formulas. That is also kind of invalid entered data. So this is something what we call the existing errors in a model. Then when it comes to the potential errors, we call it the potential errors while not currently generating inaccurate or misleading model output. It involves poor design practices that will increase the risk of errors being introduced into the model in the future. So in a simple sense, when it comes to these potential errors, it would not be evidence in the existing model. But when it comes to the expansion or the modification of this model in the future, because of the poor practices, the poor design practices, it may not necessarily allow you to do this expansion and modification as expected. So the model design is poor. So because of the poor model design, so it may not facilitate the future expansion of the model or the modification. So the potential errors would involve the poor design layout. So one of the probable areas that you would have used a kind of rectangular format in an instance where you should have used a kind of different worksheets, but you have used a rectangular format. So that is a kind of poor design layout. It does not suitable for the given circumstance. It does not facilitate the expansion of the model, and also difficult to understand and modify the model. So if you ended up providing some inadequate information, especially the documentation, so then this model would be too complicated and it may be difficult to understand. Even this is something that goes something to do with the efficiency of the model. So in the efficiency, formula efficiency, we have discussed that. So once you develop the model, it should be easily understood. So then only it will allow for the modification. So if the user cannot understand this model properly, so then the modification would be quite difficult. So even that is impossible. So therefore you need to make sure that you try to keep all the relationships, all the formulas what you had applied to the simple as possible. So it should make simple as possible. And also the poor model documentation. So as I said, it will also contribute towards the potential errors. In fact, it will compromise the understandability. So you can't necessarily understand if you do not have adequate documentation. So especially if the model is used by a person other than the model developer. So then there would be problems in the future. So when this model is going to be executed, so the problems can be there. And also the data values embedded in the formula, we call it the hard coding. So if the hard coding is there, so it will compromise the flexibility. So the model may not necessarily allow for the manipulation. So the manipulation would be impossible. So it will compromise the flexibility of the model. In future, when you are going to manipulate the things, because of this hard coding, it may not necessarily allow the manipulation. And also you may have developed the model, but you may fail to take the adequate measures as to the protection of the model. So if you simply ignore, if you simply compromise the security aspect, then it would lead to future or the potential errors. So the different parties can access the model, so therefore they can even uh, manipulate this model, or even they can misuse the model. So they may be put the model into a different use. So therefore you need to take care of the security aspect. So if you do not consider that, it would lead to potential errors. So it's about the potential errors. Then let's see, in order to identify the logical errors, in order to identify the inconsistencies and the mistakes of the model, what are the tools that is available in the spreadsheet package? We call it auditing tools. So this would be the auditing tools that is available in the spreadsheet package to help you with ensuring the accuracy of this model. The following 5 commands are available under the Excel tools auditing command. You can make use of the trace precedents, trace dependence, error checking, remove errors, show formulas, and evaluate formulas. In fact, this would be the tools that is available to ensure the accuracy of the model. So out of that, here you can see that we have 6 options, but out of that, the tools would be the trace precedent, the trace dependent, error checking, show formulas, and evaluate formulas. The remove arrows is, in fact, it's an option that is there, but that is not necessarily a tool. That's why we used to say the following 5 commands, right? So when we apply the things, you would realize that it is not something to do with kind of tool, but it is something that is necessary in the application of the rest of the tools, especially the trace precedents and trace dependence. This command assists the model builder to visually identify the relationship that exists between cells within a spreadsheet model. So if you consider about the use of this command, it will help to identify the logical relationship that is being used in this particular model. And also, not only that, so it will help to identify the mistakes and even the inconsistencies in a given model. But the most of the time, the real benefit out of these auditing tools is going to be the identification of the relationship that exists in the developed model. So it will help to identify even the inconsistencies and also the mistakes in the model. So that's why we highlight that basically these models help you to identify the relationship that exists between the cells in a given model. Let's take one by one and let's see what is the core content of each of these auditing tools. Starting from trace precedents. What is that? This can be used to visually identify all cells that have a direct or indirect relationship with the active cell. So this can be used to identify the cells that have a direct or indirect relationship with the active cell. So when you select a particular cell in the model that you had developed, if you click on these trace precedents, it will show what are the cells that is having a kind of relationship for this particular cell. Let's see. Let's go to the model that we had developed initially and let's try to figure this out. In order to explore that, it says you need to go to the formulas and then select the cells, right? Okay, now let me just select this sales figure, right, as a starting point. I want to know from where I have got this particular figure, right? So therefore, in that particular sense, I can identify what are the cells that is having a kind of relationship to this particular cell. All what I have to do is, in order to investigate that, go to the formulas, and then you can see that there's an area called formula auditing. In this section, you can see the trace precedent is there. So if you simply click on that, see, it says that it draws a kind of arrow. It says that this particular cell is taken, or in the input section, the sales in January is having a relationship with this cell. In fact, we take it as a kind of reference, right? Similarly, if you want to observe more relationships, let us take this profit for the month of January and let's click on the trace precedent. It says that this profit after tax is a matter of profit before tax minus the income tax. So it shows that it links to this profit before tax and income tax. So in fact, that is the case. Let us click one more time on that. Then it takes us above. You could see that with that particular click, it shows that this profit before tax is linked to the gross profit. It is linked to the sales. Then this sales is linked to even the sales here and also the tax rate over here. So here, in fact, we have made use of this tax rate, right? So it shows us all the relationship that it is having. So you can click few more times, then it further shows the relationships. See, by doing this, you can identify all the cells that is having a kind of relationship with these cells. All the cells preceding, all the preceding cells which is having a relationship. And that's why we call trace precedents, the cells that came before, right? Okay. Now how we are supposed to remove these errors, remove these arrows? In order to help you with that, here we have the option remove arrows. So that would be the purpose, what is served by this remove arrow, right? That's why I told that it is not necessarily a command, but it is something that helps to apply the rest of the command. So you can click on that, then it get removed. Then if you go to the December profit and if you try to establish the relationship, then you can have a kind of understanding about all the logical relationships that it is there in the model, because this is the end point of our model. Let's click on the trace precedent. It says that this profit figure is relating to this profit before tax and the income tax. Let me click one more time. Then it shows the kind of relationship. This profit before tax has come as a matter of the gross profit minus the operating expenses. As far as this income tax is concerned, how it has come, there you have draw a link to the tax rate. This is where you would draw the tax rate. So in fact, that's how we used to do. We draw the tax rate, track the tax rate from the input section. Then let me click one more time. Yes, and it further takes that up. This gross profit is taken as a matter of sales minus cost of sale. And in that, when it comes to this operating expenses, you had made use of one of the cells that is there. So that is the operating expenses. In fact, we have made use of that. So therefore, it shows a link over there. Now let me click one more time. Then it shows that these two figures has come from there. So in fact, when it comes to the cost of sales, you make use of this particular percentage and you have applied that to the sales. So therefore, it shows that there is a link to this cost of sales. And as far as the sales is concerned, the sales, how would you get? You get the previous year sales, so that's why it links to the previous year sale. And not only that, you also incorporate some sales growth from there, and that's how you have derived that. So if you click further, you can see this is linked to the previous month sale, right? So likewise, you can keep on clicking and see all the logical relationship what you would witness there, right? So likewise, you can go back to all the relationships and you can investigate whether there is something wrong. So this is the capability that it offers. So with that, we have established all the relationships that it would take to generate this profit after tax. So it was very clearly laid out. So this is in fact what we call the trace precedent. It will show when you select a particular cell, what are the cells uh, that it is prior to this particular cell is having a relationship with this particular cell. So the cells prior to that, which is having a relationship to the active cell, is called the trace precedent cells, and we are going to trace that particular relationship. So it is trace precedents, right? So it is about one of the commands that is available to identify the logical relationships. So you can remove this, right? If you click on the remove, everything get removed, right? So let's get back to the lecture and see what is there. It says that this command can be used to identify which cell, if changed, would affect the result in the active cell. In fact, so in the cells on which the present cell depends, the cells on which the present cell depends on. So it talks about, so if you change a particular cell that it is having kind of relationship, it will reflect in the active cell. That is the trace precedent. Now let's look at the trace dependence. What is that? The trace dependent is the second command what you are going to learn. We call it. It can be used to identify all the formulas that are directly or indirectly affected by the active cell. So in fact, trace dependent is the other way around of trace precedent. Earlier we used to investigate what are the cells that is having a relationship with the existing cell, no? So what are the cells? The prior to this active cell is having a relationship. So that is what the trace precedent. But as far as the trace dependent is concerned, it will show when you select a particular cell in the model, what are the cells that depends on this existing cell. So what are the cells that depends on the existing cell? So if I am to select the sales in the month of January, if I click on the trace dependence, I can see that depending on this, the February sales is taken. Depending on that, the gross profit has been taken. Not only that, the cost of sales has been taken. Even it has gone to the operating expenses. If I click one more time again it affects on the profit before tax, and here, so initially it affects on the February sales. So depending on that, the gross profits is considered, and so it goes to the operating expenses. Likewise, you can click one more time. Sorry, I have clicked on a wrong one. So the trace dependence precedent was clicked. So you have to click on trace precedent. Okay, 2 times, and even you can go for 3 times. See, so it expands its relationships. So it shows that this particular cell is contributed to derive the figures in the subsequent cells. So therefore, the subsequent cells would depend on the existing cell. That is what we call the trace dependent. So likewise, you can simply keep on clicking, then it will show all the relationships that it would be there, right? Then you can go through the entire model and you can establish the relationships. So this is to investigate the logical relationship. In the trace dependence, what it does, so when you select a particular active cell, then it will identify what are the cells that depends on this particular cell. So what are the cells that depends on the existing cell? That is called the trace dependent. Again, if you want to remove that, you can click on the remove arrows. And even if you can do this for by referring to the cells in the inputs as well. So if you go to this, you can click on this trace dependent. It shows that there it goes to the cells and it impacts on this, and you can further increase this relationships, right? Even if you take this sales growth, you can click on that, you can see where it links. So these are the links that it is having. So then depending on that, it will flow to the rest of the things. So even if you take this tax rate, it will show where it links to. It links to the tax, income tax, and thereby it will link to the profits as well. So that would be the depending cells on this tax rate. On this tax rate, this would be the cells that is depends on. So likewise, by investigating these relationships, you can identify if something had gone wrong, you can easily identify that. So that would be the benefit this trace precedent and trace dependence will offer. Then we'll be moving on to the third one. It is called the error checking. Error checking. That is also another important thing. So when you are going to develop the model, in fact, at the initial periods of the model development, you would likely to encounter different kinds of errors. Then you need to know exactly what these different kinds of errors are. So it is better to have a kind of general understanding on the different errors that you would likely to encounter. So here we have listed down the commonly encountered errors in a given model. So you would likely to encounter uh, the formula being divided by 0. So it is division related error, the not applicable error, the name related errors, the number related errors, value related errors, and reference related errors. So this would be the most commonly applicable errors or the most commonly evident errors in a particular model. Now let's see how to check for these errors, right? Okay, let's take one by one. Let's start with this division error. So when you come to the division error, sometimes when you develop the model mistakenly, you may divide a particular cell by 0, right? So if you divide a particular cell by 0, see what happens. See, here it comes the division error. Then using the error checking, you can have an understanding about what particular kind of error is occurred. So if you can figure out what is the error, then you can correct that particular error, right? So if you come across a situation like this, you may wonder where the things has gone wrong. So even, in fact, you become nervous, especially in an exam situation. So if you encounter something of this nature, you become nervous. Then what you are supposed to do? You should go to this error checking and you may click on error checking. See what it says. It says that it's a divided by 0 error. Divided by 0 error. It gives information on this. The formula of functions used is divided by 0 or empty cell. So it says that this is what it has happened. Then once you get to know that, what you can do, you can correct that particular error. So the divide by 0 error can be rectified by removing or eliminating the division what you had encountered, right? So here there are different options. You may investigate these options later. So once you get to know that, with the help of this error checking, you can get rid from this error, right? Now you have get back to the normal answer. So it's a kind of common error that you would likely to encounter. Then the second common type of error is, we call it not applicable error. Not applicable error. In fact, This particular kind of errors is more likely to witness when you are going to use the lookup functions. When you are going to use the lookup functions, the not applicable errors would more likely to be encountered. So therefore, in this course, we'll be discussing about the lookup functions. So therefore, the discussion of the not applicable errors will be differing up until we take the lookup functions into the discussion. So in that point in time, I might refer to that particular error and I might explain on that, right? So we may keep that for such particular time. Then the name error. What is that? When it comes to this name error, it is simply you have used a range name that has not been recognized by the Excel. So that is what the name error. Let's witness that, right? When it comes to this particular model, let's say, so this is the examples what I used to take for the related cell references explanation. So there, if you can remember, we have used different range names. So just to show you, if you go to the name manager, you can see that, no? So these are the range names what we had made use of. For this profit, in fact, we have used the profit as the range name, right? Then let's say that you want to calculate the total profit. When you want to calculate the total profit, what you can do is you can take the equal, you may take the sum, and you have to type the profit, right? So you may type the name, that is profit. When you are going to type profit, mistakenly you just type pro and you may close the bracket and you may enter. If that happens, see what happens. It says that it's a name error. So in fact, you have applied this range name incorrectly, right? That is what the name error would suggest. Then if you want to have more information on that, what you can do, you can go to the error checking. Then it says that the formula contains unrecognized text. The text what you used in this formula is unrecognized. That's what it says. So therefore, you know something wrong with the range name. Then having it to know that, what you can do, you can simply correct that. So you know that something has gone wrong. So profit. So once you apply the correct term, you can end up getting the correct total profit. So if you would likely to encounter the name errors if you had used the range names incorrectly. That is one instance. And another instance why this name error can come is you may have used the formulas incorrectly. The inbuilt formulas, you have used it incorrectly. Say for an example, if you want to get this sum, mistakenly you would type something like sum x or something, sum x, and then you take this profit, right? So you may take the range name correct but the formula incorrect. See, again the name error appears. So in that particular case you have inappropriately used the inbuilt formula. So if you go to the error checking, it says that invalid name error, the formula contains unrecognized text. Then you can have a close look at that. Profit is fine, but sum, you have taken sum x. That's where it has gone wrong. Okay. Then you go to that formula and you may simply correct that. So then only you may get the answer. So this is how you make use of the error checking, right? Then you have the number error. There's a problem with the number. So it's something like this, right? When it comes to a kind of number error, it's like this. So if the number is too large, then this particular error would appear. Something like this. Let's take that you are taking 8,000 and you are taking 100 over here. Let's say that you want to get the answer for the 800 to the power 100. Let's say that you want to get the answer for 8,000 to the power 100. So let's try to apply that. You get this 8,000 to the power 100 to the power 100. See what happens. It gives you the number error. it gives you the number error. Then if you want to get more information on that, you can go and see. It says that there is a problem with the number used in the formula. So it says that this error had occurred because the number that you had used, there's error. Then in fact, you find that no problem with 8,000, no problem with 100, but still the error is there. Then you know it may be because the number would be too large. The number would be too large. So what you can do, you can simply get rid from that. So if you use a kind of a small number, sometimes it may help. So to the power 10, yes, it helps. So it's taken in the scientific way. You can change the format, take it to the number format, the answer comes. And if you will have some, what about 100, still it is a kind of large number, that's why that particular error would occur, right? So that is what the number error is. The other type of error is going to be the value error. So you have used a formula used incorrect argument or operator. The formula used incorrect argument or operator. So in a situation where you had make use of an incorrect argument in the formula, the value error is likely to encounter. Let's say that you need to get the summation of these two values. Let's say 8,000 multiplied by 100. No problem, the answer comes. But mistakenly, you may type some words in this in a particular cell. Say you type something like ERR or something, right? Mistakenly. Then see what happens. So it is a value error. Value error comes. So if you want to get more information, go to the formulas and error checking. It says that so you have multiplied W4 by W5, but a value used in the formula is of the wrong data type. So they have exactly say what had gone wrong. So it's a wrong data type. Okay. Then you once you see that, yes, it come into your notice that yes, here mistakenly we have typed some words over there. So once you get to know that, you can simply go and correct that. So it's about the correction of value errors. And the final error, what we expect to discuss, we call it reference errors. Formula refer to a cell that is not valid, or in fact, the cell that does not exist. It's something like this, right? So let me take the previous example what I had discussed. So in the absolute cell reference, here I have taken the VAT rate for a particular cell, and then I have applied this absolute cell reference and managed to get the price after tax and the tax figure. Accidentally, if this particular cell got deleted by yourself, see what happens. If it get deleted, this is what it happens. See, the reference error comes. Reference error comes. So then if you see a reference error in a given model, then you need to know that accidentally you have deleted a particular relevant cell. Then you may go to the error checking and have a kind of understanding. Then it says that moving or deleting cells caused an invalid cell reference. You have moved or you have deleted, or function is returning reference error. That is the thing. Sometimes you would have moved this particular cell, or sometimes you would have deleted that particular cell. In our case, we have deleted. So if I undo that, so I might get the desired result. So when it comes to the errors, this error checking would come in handy. So it will help to understand, or it will help to identify the errors in the given situation. So if you come to this model, and if you here you can see, so there is a kind of indication, right? So this at the top of the cell, in the left top of the cell, you can see, so there is a kind of something appearing in the green color. So it's a warning, right? So if I go and check what is this, it says that this formula in this cell differs from the formulas in this area of the spreadsheet. It says that inconsistent formulas. See, here they have highlighted this because they see a kind of inconsistency, right? They say that the formula in this cell differ from the formulas in this area of the spreadsheet. If you refer to the previous formula, you have taken sum, but here you have taken something different, and thereafter again you have taken sum. So therefore it's a kind of inconsistency. So here you are consistently taking the sum function, but here you have taken inconsistent formula. The same thing is appeared in the income tax as well. But we know that we have done this intentionally and it is 100% correct. Then if you know it is 100% correct, how you are supposed to get rid from that? You can simply say ignore this error because it is perfectly fine. We have to do it several times, so you need to ignore the errors what you had encountered. So even in the income taxes, you can see this is something which can be easily ignored, right? Error check is complete for the entire sheet. That's it. So this will help to check for the inconsistencies and errors in a particular model, right? So in fact, you could have select a particular kind of cell and you can check it for the inconsistency. Say for an example, if something like this has happened, you can check for the errors. If you click on check for the errors, it will refer to the places where the error is evident, and then it will give information on that. So that would be the application of this error checking. So once you develop a model, so there can be mistakes in the model. So in such circumstances, what you must do, you must click on the error checking. Then it will refer you to the errors that you have from the beginning. Here it says, so the moving or deleting cells. So once you identified that, you can correct that. In fact, we have deleted intentionally, right? So it is about the application of error checking. Apart from that, here are some options available, the show formula and evaluate formula. You can in fact investigate this, but just to show one thing, if you want to evaluate the kind of ignore that. If you want to see a particular kind of formula that is being used in a particular cell, you can click on show formula. Then if you click on that, see, once you click on that, it has shown all the cells in the formula wise. These are the formulas what you had made use of throughout this model, right? That is the advantage. So once you develop the model, if you want to have a look at the formulas, what you can do, you can click on a particular place and you can click on the show formulas. If you click on that, it will show all the formulas that is being used in a particular cell. So that is about the show formula one. Even you can evaluate these formulas as well. So let's click on that. So this is how it has been taken. Sheet P13. So that is where we are in. It equals the sales in January. Sales in January. So if you click on evaluate, see, it will show the amount that is there in this particular cell. You can restart. So in fact, you could see that the sales has come as a matter of this, and there it says that the sales in January. You can further investigate, then it shows the number what it is there, right? So you may try something else. Yeah, what about this profit after tax? If you are to evaluate the formula, it says that it comes as a result of sum B17 to B18. Sum B17 to B18. If you click on evaluate, it will show the number, the answer, right? So likewise, you can evaluate that. So therefore, this particular section, the formula auditing, is basically helps you with the auditing or ensuring the accuracy of this model. So that would be the 5 commands which is available in this spreadsheet package. Now let us move to the final principle of the model development. We call it protecting your model. Protecting your model. How we are supposed to protect the model? So far we have developed a kind of three types of models. No, the very first model, how we develop, we use the rectangular format and we have developed the model. Thereafter, we have developed the same model using the different worksheets. And also, we have developed the same model using the different workbooks. So likewise, now we have developed three kinds of models. So three types of models has been developed. Now here we have different model protection options. Then, depending on the model, depending on the layout of each of these model, we may decide what particular kind of protection that we need to apply for these models, right? The first thing we are going to learn about protecting the worksheet. You can protect the worksheet. All what you have to do is you have to go to the worksheet, you can click on the review, then you can protect the sheet. There you can enter a password, then you can say OK and re-enter the password, then OK. That is how to protect the worksheet. So out of the three types of different layout models, different layouts, uh, what must be the situation that we should protect a worksheet? The protection of worksheet make more sense. Is it in the rectangular format or is it in a kind of the different worksheet option or the different workbooks? So, we model develop kara ඇත්තටම එක model එක අපි layouts තුනක් භාවිතා කරලා develop කරා rectangular format එකට develop කරා ඊට පස්සේ different worksheet model එකට develop කරා method එකට develop කරා ඒ වගේම different workbooks. එතකොට මේ තියෙන models වලින් worksheet එක protect කරන්න සුදුසු අවස්ථාව මොකක්ද? So if you make use of your general or the common sense, what might be the situation that is suitable to protect the worksheet? In fact, it makes more sense in the situation where you have used the different worksheets or separate worksheet for different blocks. So this is where we have developed the model in separate worksheet for the documentation one, for the input one, for the output another. Especially when you want to restrict access to the parties, and that is where you are going to apply the protection. So when you develop a model of this nature, sometimes you want to allow the user to use this documentation area. So therefore no protection is needed. Even you want to allow the user to manipulate the inputs. But you do not want the user to touch upon this output. In fact, no point of hard coding the things, no point of touching the output. All what they want to touch is the input. They may change the input and see what is the result on the output. So therefore, in such kind of situation, it makes more sense to protect this output sheet. So therefore, the worksheet protection may come in handy in a model where you had developed that using the different worksheets. So therefore, we may protect this output sheet. So how you must do? It says that you have to go to, if you have to see that, go to review, click on review, and there you have the option to protect sheet. Out of the different options, you may get the protect sheet option. Then what you have to do, just type a password there. So whatever the password that is convenient, you may type. I have taken password of 3 figures and say OK. Now see what is the impact that it brings. Can you type the things over here? No, you can't touch on the model. Nothing can be typed in the model. Nothing can be typed in the model. But input, it can easily be changed. You can make it 100,000 and see what is the impact that it has on the output. Yes, it is reflected, but you can't touch the things in the output. Only the restricted people you may share the password with can unprotect this sheet. So if they really want, they can go to the unprotect and unprotect the sheet, and they can make use of that. So only the restricted people can be given access if they needed to access this output, right? So that is the first type of protection what you may apply. Then let's see the second type of protection. The second type of protection is called protecting the answer model only. In this particular case, what you are going to do is you are going to allow a particular area to be edited by the user, or particular area where the user can edit the things. The rest of the things you may not allow the user to edit. In what particular kind of situation the protecting the answer model may be come in handy. So it is not something to do with the different worksheet. It makes more sense in the rectangular format, because in the rectangular format you witness that all the blocks of the model is there in a single worksheet. So therefore, in such kind of situation, it is better you may allow the user to edit the things in the input section, but restrict the access to the rest of the areas, that is in the sense the output area. So in such kind of situation, how you are going to apply the protection, it's like this. You are going to select the area where you want to allow the user to edit. So let's say that it is the input area. Then you may go to the review. Then you are going to take the option allow edit range. So it is in the review, protect, allow edit range. Then you can take this new option, and this is range 1. You can even use a name for that. Let's say input. Then it give a meaningful context. Inputs, right? Then here you can refer to that particular area. So in fact, this is the area what we want to allow, and you can say OK, right? You're not going to apply the password, just say OK, right? Then you can go to protect sheet, right? Once you come to this particular window, you have the option go to protect sheet. Then you can enter a password for that. Say OK. Say OK. Right. Now see what happens. You may come and try to type the things in the output section. You are going to try touch the output. See, it is not allowed. It is not allowed. But you may try to change the input. See whether it can be done. Yes, it can be done. Simply because we allow the user to edit the input, but not the output. If the user try to type the things in the output, no, it is not allowed. It is protected, but only the input area can be changed. So we are giving kind of restricted access. But the person who wants 100% access, you can share the password with. Then they can unprotect the sheet and they can edit the whole thing. But in a situation where, so this model is operated by a party where you want to allow a kind of restricted access, especially you want them to allow only to edit the inputs, yes, it is possible. So therefore, protecting the answer model would make more sense under the rectangular format, right? That is the second type of protection. The second type of protection what you had learned. So let me do that, right? Now let's go to the final type. What is that? Protecting the workbook. What may be the situation that makes sense? So in fact, the only option that is left, the different workbook method, different workbook layout. So therefore, we need to protect the workbook under that particular case. You have to go to the save as option, click tool buttons, and then you can set the password and re-enter the password, and you can save it, right? Let's go to the model where we had developed the model in two different sheets, the inputs and output. In fact, you may allow the employees to operate this input. So therefore, input you are not going to protect, but output you are going to restrict the access. So being the manager, you may only keep the access to yourself. You may only keep the access to yourself. Then how you can ensure that? You can go to this file, then you have option to protect the workbook. Then you can encrypt with the password, right? You can set a password there, and then only you can open up the workbook. Then you can save it, then just close it. Then try to open it. See, the unauthorized personnel cannot open that. See, it shows nothing. It says that this file is protected. So only the person who knows the password can open this up. So in fact, I just forget it. So therefore, you need to know that password. Yeah. Only the person who knows the password can open up this. So if you want to remove that password, you can go to the file and you can go to the encrypt. You can remove that password if needed, right? Or if you want to change that, and that's how you do that. So it is about the protection of worksheets. So when you are going to develop a model, you need to be conscious about these 7 principles. These 7 principles are equally important. So some of the principles had contributed in the model development. The some of the principles had contributed in ensuring the accuracy, and some of the principles had contributed in the security aspect of the model. So therefore, if I am to summarize these 7 principles, so this is what we had discussed throughout this lecture. So the first principles, the first 5 principles, in fact, it will help you to the development of the model. The spreadsheet model planning, the formula flexibility, formula efficiency, the range names, and the block model layout. These 5 principles help you with the development of the model. While the 6th principle, the auditing spreadsheet model, help you with ensuring the accuracy of the model. And finally, when come to the security aspect of the model, it was taken care by the protecting spreadsheet model. So it's about the application of spreadsheet model design. So this particular topic is of utmost importance when it comes to the subsequent lectures. So therefore, you need to carefully study all these 7 principles and should make full sense out of that. Thank you.